Hello, and welcome to our second course or topic that I want to cover. And again, I'm going to split this video or this course up in three individual videos. So this video that you're watching right now is specifically going to cover the fundamental analysis and the how does it work aspect before we start building. And the second video is going to be the instructions for the video building, and the last one is going to be why is it important. And so to begin with, at least in the beginning, I'm going to first be covering what exactly a extended grabber is and how does it work. So an extended grabber, I think if you saw it before you came, is going to be, I think, um, seen like somewhere, is it basically a tool which has and not springs, but it has points such as these that are extended outwards. And with a handle, you're able to extend these two sticks or detract them. And basically, this gives you additional reach. So let's say you have a bottle that's like far out of reach, and it's not that far because I mean, it depends how long you're making the grabber, but it's a certain distance away. And what you're doing with the sticks is that, or with the handle, is that once you pinch the handle, which this is going to be like your hand, once you pinch the handle, the extended grabber will go from this position, which is stuck together, to a elongated position, which then would extend the reach that you have by just gripping. And going into the details about how it works is that you should firstly know that there are two ways that this works. So I'll give you the example of a spring. So I'll have a spring with me at the moment. I'm trying to think, but imagine a spring that actually I do. One moment, I could grab it right now. So I could talk to you while I try to find it. There it is. Okay. So think of it like a spring. This spring has a potential that is currently like well wound together. You can't push it anymore, no matter how hard you try. It is the smallest it can get. So no matter what you try to do, you can't force it to be smaller. You can't do anything in that way. But once you pull, it has the potential to be expanded. So right now it has the potential to be stretched and expanded. Let me put the camera a little bit lower. And what this means is that think of it in the terms of the extend grabber. Once you're grabbing down on the handles, you're basically extending the arm. So let's say this is my reach at the moment. If let's say I grip it downwards, the springs or the certain the angles of the two or many um, sticks extends outwards. So it goes from a position that is like this to a position that is going to be like this. I'm not sure it's going to be exactly like this, but you'll see soon once you start building it. And from that, this is basically the same thing with the spring. It is tightly wound like this, which is the compact position, which is the same position when the extended grabber is in this position. And once you stretch, this is basically it being extended, which would be the same position as this. And why that analogy is really important to understand is that no matter how much you try to push them together, it's not going to change. No matter how much you try to push push the extended grabber to be compacted, it's not going to become more compacted. It can only extend in one direction. And once it's stuck in this direction, let's say the cables are not cables, the wooden pieces are in their widest position, you can't pull it anymore because no matter how hard you try to pull, you're just going to break it. And that's the limit of the thing. But when you think of a spring, you're tightly, let's say this is the maximum we can stretch. You can't stretch any more than this, and that's the maximum. So all you're left to do now is to retract it. So now the spring right now has the potential to be put back together at a lower location. So that's potential tension. That's basically the term for it. And this right here is tension. So where it's very tense and it comes together. And something similar, I mean, this wouldn't be tension in this case, but it would be actually, I mean, it would be somewhat of tension. But right now, it would be extended like this, where now the tension is on these 2 points where it's fully extended. And this would basically be its relaxed position. So it's always trying to come back to this relaxed position, but which is the same thing you see with the spring, because this always, no matter how much you pull it, it tries to go to a relaxed position. So yeah. Another thing to realize is that the length of these sticks does not change. And this is one of the other fundamental rules, where no matter how far these are together, or these are far apart, or whatever, they do not change their length. So we can test that. If you have them like this, if you, here, let me get a ruler. I think I do have a ruler right here. So right now we can measure the stick's length, which would be 11 and 4 centimeters. That's the length. And this one should also be similar. I can measure just in case if you guys are questioning. 11.4. So these two are put together in the vertical position. Okay. Now let's see you extend one outwards and measure. It's still going to be 11.4. And if you extend this one outwards, this is also still going to be 11.4. Actually, yeah, 11.4. And because of that, that means that the size of these does not change. And it's really important to understand, because whenever you do extend the grabber, it's just the length of these being transferred from vertical to horizontal. Basically, what that means, think about it like this. Let's say you have a triangle that is at this position, or not a triangle, you have the extend grabber at this position. Right now, this would be at a length of 2.5 centimeters, okay? And this has a vertical length of 2.5. But let's say we extend both of these outwards. Now, the length that was in the vertical went to the horizontal. So we could also measure the vertical length. The vertical length of this position, once at 2.5, let me move this around, when it's at 2.5, right here, the vertical length is at 10.5. But once we extend it and we change the vertical to horizontal, we can see that now the horizontal length is, well, my ruler is not that long, but it's 7 inches, which would be around 18 centimeters, something along those lines. When the the vertical location is now only 6.5. And that's important to know, because the relationship between length and height doesn't change. Those two always stay in the same ratios at one another. And if you want, you could go and experiment yourself. Start measuring different positions. Start measuring them at this position, this position, this position, and you'll always realize that there's gonna be a ratio between length and height that will always have to stay constant. And that even if you extend it outwards, the height will decrease. And you could also think of it as a triangle too, relating to the last topic, or the topic before, about the spaghetti. You see how this is a triangle at the moment? You could extend the arm of this and see how it changes. And let me get rid of this one extra. I don't think that's needed. But you see how this length makes it like this. And then once you extend the vertical height, this height, if you keep it constant, there's a gap. You see how there's a huge gap there? That means why this has to come downwards and meet the one another. So this difference in height correlates to the difference that's needed for the horizontal shift. And yeah, that's the, I think, second law that you should know whenever you're messing with these. And I also want to teach you guys pivot points. And I haven't formally said what they are, but I think you already know a general idea. These 2 points are basically pivot points. And these are points where these two can extend, contract, and do all of the above. And I think knowing that term, that basically pivot means to turn or rotate. And this thing is pivoting at this certain point. It's turning at this point. You see how this point never changes. It's always stuck to this wooden stick, and how this point just changes location, or it doesn't change location, but just changes direction. So think of it maybe as like a clock, let's say. The second hand always moves upward, upward, but the point at the end of it would be its pivot point. And you could relate that same thing to this, where right here, this location where these two meet, it would be a pivot point. And although it can go all the way around in our model, it can go from a contracted position to an expanded position. So yeah, I think that's the basic gist of it. Thank you for coming. And then tune in for the second video, which will be covering the building process of the extended grabber. Yeah.